Welcome here today. It's a very big pleasure to be here and to have this conversation with you. How are you today?
Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure. We are at Lucanet Fest in Berlin, and it's a very nice event. First of all, thank you for having me here. And I wanted to leave you a little bit of space to get you a short introduction of yourself, your personal background, and of course, as Lucanet as a company.
Yeah. So my name is Elias Apel. I'm with Lucanet since mid 2018. I initially joined to grow Lucanet's international partner channel activities. Previous to Lucanet, I've been working in finance, corporate finance, M&A for my whole professional career.
Oh, cool.
And
We share the background then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
And that's also how I discovered Lucanet in the first place, actually. So I started to implement Lucanet for my customers starting around 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And I discovered that amazing value proposition that Lucanet had to offer and that massive impact that that the product had on my customers back then. So I implemented Lucanet in the context of larger financing transactions, also larger M&A transactions, and I saw the immediate impact after the very fast implementation. So that excited me, and I was very happy that I could actually join the company a couple of years after. So I then spent the first years growing the international partner channel at Lucanet. I took over the whole responsibility for all go-to-market activities outside of the German region. And I then was also part of the management team who went through that transition from a founder-run company, Lucanet, to a management-run Lucanet. And that was a very exciting times.
Yeah.
So I had the chance to succeed one of our founders as CFO first. And then after HG came in, our new majority shareholder, back in 2022, only 1.5 years later, I then transitioned into the role of the CEO. And that was around 1.5 years ago.
Oh, so nice.
Since
That's
then,
recent. Let's see.
Lucanet, and now, as we've announced here at Lucanet World, also with strong ambitions
Nice.
and trying to really tap into that potential around AI and what it has to offer.
So I was recently speaking with your CFO about how this industry is shaping and is evolving and everything else. But I wanted to focus on one specific topic. So this is maybe the 25th anniversary of Lucanet as a company. So how do you actually lead a company that has been born basically 25 years ago in 2025 with everything that is going around from a macroeconomical perspective, with AI, with latest technologies? So how do you lead a company that has 25 years of history on its back?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, I think I was very lucky that I joined Lucanet at a point in time where this transition from the previous founder-run company to that management-run company was just about to start, which meant that I had that full download from the founders on where they're coming from, the fights that they were fighting over all those years, the kind of challenges they had on the product side, on the implementation side, etc. And I also witnessed why customers actually love the product and why do they stick to Lucanet for such a long time. I mean, you have customers who are with Lucanet for 20 years already.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Or 20 years plus using that software for a consolidation, especially in integrated financial planning. So I was really blessed by having these very early days together with the founders and having that full download. Secondly, I think a big advantage was that I'm a finance person as well.
Okay.
So I knew, so to say,
having that
real
experience.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew how the real life, the daily lives of finance tax professionals looks like. And I also know how they collaborate with our partner ecosystem that I was building up back then. So through on the one hand side, having that direct contact with our customers, but also growing these partner channel activities with professional service firms, Big Fours, Next Six, however you want to call them, right? But also other software vendors, I was able to discover that ecosystem and the impact that our software had. And thirdly, we've really transitioned from being I would say, a company torn between being a product business on the one hand side and a consulting business on the other side for a couple of years, first decade at least. We've now fully transitioned into that product mode. right?
That's not an easy transition.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it had to do also, of course, with some of the legacies. Also, one of the reasons why we've been so successful, because we combined product and delivery, product and professional service, always out of one hand. But now that we are scaling much faster and growing as fast as we grow at the moment, we can only scale by our partner channel. And that's why I think we need to, that's made the last point back to your question, we need to always reverse engineer from the product, from the customer. So we need to be really the brain surgeon of those day-to-day workflows, those day-to-day manual processes.
Starting from the problem itself,
exactly,
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then reimagine that, how this could look on our platform, and having always that close loop with our partners and our customers to make sure we're on the right track.
Yeah. Starting from that grow perspective that you were mentioning, so you're not a young company anymore, but I still believe that you're growing like a very small startup, like year to year, right?
Yeah. So we've actually been able to accelerate our growth through our SaaS transformation, cloud transformation. We are now at the moment growing roughly 40% year over year in total ARR. And we also believe that on the back of all these innovations that we are shipping, on these new exciting topics we are driving throughout our product and our platform, we are able also maintain high growth rates over the next couple of years. I think that there is a strong need for software in the office of the CFO that combines those business critical jobs to be done end to end. And we're witnessing within our customer base how they are struggling also with having that, on the one hand side, heterogeneous source data, our ERPs, accounting system, whatever. And then on top of that, also a quite heterogeneous architecture. So now that if we speak about vendor consolidation, this is something that our customers really think about at the moment. We can actually say, this is the platform where you find all your business critical jobs. And then this journey ahead could be a Lucanet journey, where you really try to bring everything together on one platform.
So you want your customer basically to be able to handle that flow end to end inside one platform without the need, to have 7, 8 different kind of software to run everything.
Exactly. Which doesn't mean that we are always sitting on top of the source system, right? We have strong partnerships with large ERP players and accounting players to ensure that there's always a seamless connection to pull the source data out of the ERP or the accounting system. But if you start at Lucanet, if you start your journey with Lucanet, you usually start with one use case, maybe two. At the moment, we even say sometimes customers starting with 3, because the more we have to offer, the more people start to also use from day one. But usually you start, maybe let's say, consolidation, legal consolidation. And then over time, you discover the value of the platform. And then you add maybe disclosure management for your narrative reporting. Or maybe you see that the only way to have full transparency in the movements of my bank accounts is via the front ends of the online front ends of my banks, right? So I add maybe banking and cash management to bring full visibility on my short-term liquidity also to the platform. So long story short, there is so much to discover. So landing and then expanding into these other solutions is a main driver of our growth. That's why we see at the moment on the one, it's roughly 50-50. We grow 50% through new logos, new customers starting that journey with us, and 50% by expanding in our
upselling
existing base.
What about, you were mentioning, having the possibility to connect with your bank, for example, and seeing transaction there, making cash management and everything. How do you think, innovation like open banking and many different kind of other fintech trends impacted on your journey as a company?
I mean, I think that usually in our customer base, we see that customers do not rely only on one bank, right? They probably have one trusted bank they always go to, and then they add other banks. And these different banks have different speed in how they evolve, right? And the innovation that they drive. And they're probably very advanced banks that our businesses work with, but also some very traditional businesses. So at the end of the day, the heterogeneity creates the complexity, because not every banks move at the same pace. And that's what we are trying to bridge. We're saying you do not have to rely on the individual offers of those banks. Just connect everything to our banking and cash management solution, and you have full liquidity across all your bank.
No matter the level, for example, of the API, the bank itself.
Exactly. And I had that as a CFO as well. So when I started as a CFO at Lucanet, we had like dozens of different banks that we work with worldwide, with probably 30-ish numbers of accounts, bank accounts.
Yeah.
So in order to have the full liquidity perspective, that was quite a manual task, actually.
Yeah.
So of course we are now drinking our own champagne using our own
Your
software
own product, I would
solution.
say, yeah.
And we're really trying, on the one hand side, consolidate our bank relationships, but then also creating that full transparency within the Lucanet product.
But that's very interesting. So you, first of all, coming from an experience as a CFO, stepping into a CIO role in a company of this scale, of course, how was that kind of experience on you as a personal, perspective?
I mean, yeah.
Because those are two very different roles, I mean,
I think it was quite a humbling one. I would even say that I just earlier said that I'm a finance person. I think that I'm actually maybe even a stronger commercial person than I'm a finance person. So I think it felt the right step at the right time, but I was very lucky that I had all these previous stations and I grew through the ranks, so to say. And so I was able to witness the complexity of our business. Have first-hand experience working with partners, customers, through whether it was order management, collection, cash collection, etc., without being the CFO. So I witnessed all these
pain points from the
interfaces and pain points also from the commercial operations point of view before transitioning into the CFO role. Then I was able to support the business as a CFO before transitioning into the CEO role. So long story short, I think this journey allowed me to actually take over the responsibility. But I must also confess that I'm still every day working to get ready for the job.
Yeah, no, I think that no one is always, ready at day zero, it's kind of that. But
I'm also very, maybe one comment, I'm also very, very grateful for my predecessor, Dominic, who was CEO before me, who was the person who hired me in the first place. So I was able to work with him over many, many years. And he took me, so to say, also across the business, so
as a mentor,
allowed me to grow, and he mentored me also to get ready.
Yeah, no, it's very important to have someone like him, that to teach and to cover for mistakes sometimes also. But I strongly agree on one point. I think that mostly nowadays, CIO are becoming a commercial position rather than, taking strategic decision or management. You need to be the face of that business under that point of view. And I think that event like this one testify that, So you need to have a public face. You need to be out there, advocating for your product. That is very, very important. But backing that with the financial experience always help, of course.
Exactly.
And something that I was exploring again, having a conversation with a couple of people here. How are you using right now AI in your day-to-day operation and in your product specifically? Because I think that is something that no business can live out, nowadays. Everyone that need to face that kind of technology, need to integrate or to at least have a strategy around it.
Yeah, I think back to your first point, I think Lucanet World is always an amazing opportunity to connect to the community, because if you're always heads down in the business, sometimes you lack exactly those connections, right? Also as a CEO. So I'm very, very glad.
The physical touch is always important.
That's why we do these events, and we do these also across all our locations to ensure that we always have that personal interaction with our community. Back to your question on AI, I think AI at Lucanet is not a product. AI is really a feature, functionality that has been built in across not the platform services, but also across all the different solutions. So we believe that we can fundamentally rethink not only our own previous solutions, actually, and so to say, build that next generation of these products. We can also add new functionalities and make sure that these products and solutions talk to each other through AI, because there's nothing easier for an AI to follow a certain pattern, right, or use large amounts of data, also financial data, to manage. And our experience shows so far, right, that we can create immediate impact by shipping new AI functionalities on our platform across the solutions, very simply. So we started already 18 months ago with, for example, XBRL tagging, right? Making reports machine readable. And we were able to accelerate the time to tag a full report from days to minutes. Then the next thing was, of course, creating narrative reporting, being able to very fast, easily set up a quarterly report or roll forward an annual report with your previous narratives that you've already used, but updated to the newest circumstances, market developments, your new products, and also the financial performance.
For making everything more efficient.
Exactly. So it's really about accelerating. It's about, but also making recommendation, making ad hoc reporting even easier. Right? You can query your own financial data and easily, just before your board meeting, create a chart. How did your gross margin evolve over the last, let's say, 12 months? Right? Things like that are even faster, accessible, and easier to generate out of the platform. So we are really trying to focus on those topics that are very manual but have the greatest impact. And I think we have just started. There's so much of potential on our platform in terms of AI, but we do it step by step.
Yeah, of course. But do you think that is also having an impact on your employees base? Because there is something that is always, kind of a tricky phase or kind of tricky point of view. There's a lot of conversation going on about people being impacted by the use of AI, and I think that certain kind of companies are using that in a, let's say, proper way, and others are trying just to cut costs as much as they can. So having that kind of human touch, how do you actually do that?
I think it really highly depends on the profile of the business, whether you go in that direction or take another one. I think for businesses that are not very growing fast, that are struggling also in terms of profitability, it's probably something that is quite obvious that they would start working on the cost side of things with those, on those efficiencies.
Let's say replacing instead of making more efficient.
Exactly. So at Lucanet, we think differently. We believe, and everyone at Lucanet knows that, first of all, everyone needs to work with AI. There's not a single role at Lucanet that is not or should not be working with AI. Secondly, we believe that with the growth that we've seen also from in terms of our organization, we are able to keep that growth rate, to keep those growth rates, superior growth rates to what we usually see in our category, in our market, up by using the capability and capacities that we have. So imagine our R&D power that we have right now, but with a 50% higher productivity. Imagine how much faster we can ship innovations, how much faster we can also digest, for example, M&A, do integrations, things like that. And that is a superpower, I would say, that we are trying to use rather than thinking about what does it mean on the productivity, what does it mean in terms of reducing cost. Because I think what's really difficult these days is to keep up a superior growth rate rather than showing that you can run a profitable SaaS business.
Well, that's a very good point. But you also mentioned something very, very interesting, about the M&A market. So there's a lot of, let's say, there's a lot going on in the M&A market in the last couple of years. I would say the last 5-6 years. And we also saw kind of an aggregation wave, mostly in certain kind of sector. For example, Fintech is one of them. Software as a service is another one. How do you think, solution like yours, but AI in general, could actually affect that market? Because the M&A process is still very much manual in many different phases, in the due diligence, in the negotiation, all of those kind of things. Then you come to post-deal integration, and you actually need to put hands on the code, somewhere, and you actually need to get things done. But that process is still very much manual.
100%. I mean, if I look back in the days where I started to work in M&A and investment banking, I was still sitting in data rooms.
With actual papers.
With actual papers. Folders,
absolutely, right? Yes. Still remember those
and lawyers and accountants came in to go through the folders, right?
And you to read them all. It's crazy.
Exactly. I mean, this is massive. This is massive, and I'm still in close contact with my previous colleagues and to discuss how AI is impacting their business, and I really see an acceleration. But I also see an acceleration in our own M&A activities, of course, right? The capability that we have right now to screen the market, also query market data on insights and potential opportunities we could potentially tap into is really exciting to see. On the other hand, there are two more things that are very interesting to witness. On the one hand side, it is that AI, the acceleration that AI brings into the enterprise software space also means that you have to be very, very careful in terms of the tech stack you acquire. So in the past, this wasn't like top
Like
of
a thing,
mind
yeah.
for, let's say, roll-ups, buy and build strategies, right? So you just acquired, you could tuck in. We never did this actually. So we really tried to always due diligence the tech stack with biggest attention, highest attention, to make sure that the integration and also the usability, especially on the customer side, is the best possible. And I think we've done a very good job, as you can already see on the platform, how these solutions are now
Interact with
interacting,
others,
irrespective whether we build them organically
Yeah.
or whether we acquire them. And there's a second thing, and that is that the speed of innovation and the speed of actually building a product has accelerated so much that we need to question much more often whether we should do an M&A in the first place.
Instead of building internally.
Exactly. So right now there's a very interesting discussion within the teams on our buy and build strategy, because I mean, also over the last couple of years, we got a lot of offers and a lot of, like targets that approached us and asked whether we would be interested to acquire them. We only did a few M&As over the last year. We could have done hundreds.
Many of them,
We were very, very careful and very much focused on our core values. It has to be out of the box. It has to be fast to implement, fast time to value, and then easy to use for our customers. And if it didn't check all these boxes, we didn't do any deal.
Maybe
So
also
this is a new challenge, I would say, from a sell side point of view, actually, more than from buy side, that buyers like Lucanet are probably not so much interested in old tech stacks and stack that can't be fast converted into cloud native, and so that we could, let's say, tap into that AI opportunity.
Yeah, because it's kind of easier right now to, have one single engineer to build something, 1 week and actually test it and integrate already in the stack. That is kind of easier.
I mean, some of the products you've seen today on stage, it took us 5 days to build a prototype.
It's kind of easier to build and test it directly with the customer base. But then at this moment, you need to ask yourself, okay, why should I consider an M&A? And the only answer that comes in my mind is to acquire a customer base. So if I want 10,000 new businesses, let's say in Turkey or I don't know, in the US, and I want a physical presence there, then I can evaluate the M&A. I mean, the technical side is not a leverage anymore at the moment. No, it's a really good point. Yeah. And coming to, let's say, talking about the next steps under that point of view. So which are the main trends that you're seeing right now in the market? So we have been talking in this kind of specific industry about the main struggles for CFO, about the flow end-to-end inside the same platform, making life easier for management and for people working on those kind of things. But which are the things that you're looking for to see in this market? Maybe I give you my point of view before you answer.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
very interested in
I'm recently talking with a lot of people that want to have that same flow, including payments using stablecoin end to end, no matter the currency, no matter the provider, no matter the platform. So everything in the same place. So same question to you. So what are you looking forward to?
I would say stablecoin is a very interesting one, but that's not something we believe that our customer base is ready for yet. But I think it's something that's going to happen, and I think it will also, to some extent, disrupt the fintech space in the next couple of years. I think what we are really looking at, as I said earlier, we're really backwards engineering, so to say, from a customer point of view, which also means anticipating already what's going to happen over the next couple of years. So on the one hand side, one thing that drives the jobs to be done in our customer base, and thus also the workflows we need to properly build or reflect in our business, in our software, is coming via regulations. So we look into regulations. How will the regulations evolve over time? And that means not only in one market, but across all the markets that we're looking at. For example, there's a very interesting activity happening around XBRL reporting. XBRL reporting is already used for the electronic filing, ESEF filing in Europe, for example. It will also be introduced at some point for the ESG. At the moment, it's not yet obligatory for all the businesses, but definitely for the larger ones. And there are more and more of these regulations coming up. Also on the tech side, Pillar 2 is the latest one, for example. So we really try to anticipate where are regulations where's the direction that regulations take, and how can we automate that as fast as possible so that the moment the regulation hits the business, so to say, there's already a solution in place. Secondly, it's all about the automation. We believe that we move into a future where you have really zero-touch processes in the finance and your tax department. It's definitely something, I mean, it's probably a bit too early right now, but we're moving towards a much more autonomous system landscape that can conduct exactly those processes, also regulatory compliance processes, much more automated, even autonomous at some point. So we believe that this is still a journey we're on, definitely, but that's something that where we see very strong indicators already today. So we are starting to build, on the one hand side, all these specialized agents to do today's jobs, but we are already trying to envisage how the future might look like, and then prototype, speak to our, for example, customer community, but also our partner advisory board that we have in place to then challenge those ideas back and forth.
Trying to anticipate those kind of pain points before they come here.
Exactly.
You touched upon a very, very interesting point that I think that is also very, very critical. You know, you're talking about ESG direction and ESG reporting. That has always been one of the most modern, I would say, most modern topics, you know. How much of that do you think it's really in the mind of top management out there, top companies out there? Because we are always be talking about being ESG ready, you know, caring for the environment, and that's absolutely fair. But at the same time, there's a lot of brainwashing going around, and people, you know, actually trying to show that instead of actually doing something. So how much do you think is important nowadays, and how much do you think companies out there care for those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, this space has been highly dynamic over the last 12 months, for sure. I mean, we expected also in Europe a completely different development than what happened right now, right? But I think it highly depends on how the business looks at ESG and how they define ESG, right? I think ESG, from our point of view, also from my personal opinion, goes beyond environment, right? It says something about, it's a health score for your business. It tells you something about the sustainability of your business model. And that's why at Lucanet, we're using the ESG score to basically collect all the relevant data and all the understand all the dependencies, right? That's why we do for example, the double materiality assessment, which every business should do before creating the report. This is a very interesting exercise, actually, to identify those variables, those dependencies that the business has. And I think that we already see that in very traditional, very asset intensive, very strong CO2 profile businesses, that there's a hesitance and a reluctancy to finance those businesses. And the reason is the question around the sustainability of those businesses. Because on this is where you see the first indicator whether or not ESG matters. If the financing side of the market, the banks, the investors, actually are willing to fund businesses.
So the impact from a financial perspective.
Exactly. So that is the first indicator that you need to countersteer by being transparent. You need to be able to actually report on those dependencies, because that's what the capital providers are looking at, right? So I would recommend every business to take care of those topics, be actually aware of those dependencies, and then have at least a certain level of transparency in the back pocket, a report in the back pocket, to be able to report on that. And we are really trying to build that layer within your office of the CFO solution architecture, so that you can easily collect all that data, aggregate that data, and if it's required, then create that report if necessary. Yes, on the regulator side, there is much less pressure at the moment than it was like a year ago, but it will come over time. It's only a matter of time. So that's why we believe ESG will be an important, let's say, health metric, right, for the business, and it will gain importance over the course of the next couple of years, for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much, Elias. It was a very, very interesting conversation, and thank you again for having me here, and good luck for everything that you're doing for Lucanet again.
Thank you for coming to Lucanet World, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Perfect. Thanks.
It was a pleasure.